Hi there and welcome to Planet Zoo. So, today I'm back in the sustainable eco zoo I've been working on. This is an Australian outback micro zoo where I'm paying particular attention to realistic, ecologically sensitive design through things such as carbon neutral and sustainable construction techniques. So, last episode I created this louver pavilion, and this is sort of a focal point for the zoo. Inside here we've got some food and drink amenities, and there's a place to sit down and some toilet facilities. This week I've been working on the staff area, since, we need the staff facilities in place so that we can get animals in. Now, the design of the staff buildings here, I've made a use of a design concept called earth sheltering. Now, this is where you partially bury a building with earth, creating a natural roof and on the sides. This is a sustainable type of building technique because, firstly, you're preserving the ecology of the environment for plants and fauna, and secondly, earth-sheltered buildings offer extra protection from bushfires because of all that compacted soil. Now, realistically, for this to be as effective as it should be in real life, I honestly shouldn't have as many plants and trees around here, nor the rocks on the roof. But without the plants and the rocks, it was looking rather bland and unfinished. So I did take a little artistic license with that one. Now, the other sustainable thing about earth sheltering is that it provides excellent insulation for the building, and that makes it easier to regulate the temperature within the building naturally. So you'll notice how I've set this up. The exposed windows are built away from direct sunlight. None of the windows will be taking any heat from the sun. However, what is making use of the sun is the solar panels up here. Now, I've positioned these to receive maximum exposure from sunlight all day long. I know in game you're meant to space these out to cover a specific area, but honestly this is more of a decorative build, so we're not going to do that. I mean, in real life it's perfectly acceptable. In fact, it's probably more economical to have a long line of solar panels together, distributed via cables. Now, that would be a good idea if the game could work that in. So instead of just plonking a power thing down and you have a area of influence, if they could have you put the power anywhere and then you distribute power through placing cables underground or some overhead lines, that would be great. But whilst we can't do that, what I can do is I can place these utilities where I think they should be and then use the power everything cheat to make sure the lights stay on instead. Anyway, so I've got this wooden platform here and that gives access to the panels from down here. And I've also got a fake door up here, so it gives the impression of access to the panels from inside this building. So I think that's pretty neat. Anyway, moving on. So inside the building, I've got a staff room here, a research centre, a trade centre, and I added this big animal door here next to the trade centre because even though the animals are magically transported to the centre in those tiny little boxes, I thought adding a big space where the animal might be delivered for processing kind of makes sense to me. So, solid wall here. Now, I've used one of the natural stone build pieces here to create this, and that's purely for the purposes of sustainability. I don't think it's the nicest looking piece. It's very yellow and it kind of blends right into the landscape. But again, that's something I've been going for with this. I think it should blend into the landscape. I mean, I've gone with this to replicate sourcing natural stone from the local environment. So obviously that would be easier to get a hold of. It's more environmentally friendly because they're not having to transport specialist stone from somewhere else. And as I've said, it blends perfectly with the surrounding environment, which is kind of what they would do in real life to make this as unobtrusive as possible. I've also been keeping a check on the height of the building, making sure it's no higher than the pavilion we've got over here. I think this is going to be the maximum height for this map. If I want any additional vertical space, I'm going to have to dig down, which I may actually do when we get to the enclosures. Anyway, moving on. So I've also put a main entranceway here, and that's where maybe there's a staff reception inside there. This is purely for decoration and it's not functional at all. Now, over the other side here, there's another earth sheltered structure, and this is where the workshop lives. I've also got the water purification system out here, and what I've done is I've put another garage door that would lead into a larger sort of water retention and purification plant. Again, the other side of this building here, I've built the wall up to look like it's part of the building, and again, there's windows on this side that are out of the direct sunlight. Another little feature here, I've deliberately left a gap here because contrary to what the game has you do, I think leaving a little bit of the staff facilities exposed so guests can see into the area, I think that's intriguing rather than how the game plays it, where it's detrimental to the influence you have over the guests. I mean, yeah, if this was a theme park, then noticing a staff area would be detrimental to their experience. But I think that's a little muddled up for Planet Zoo, in that the negative impact you get from being too close to staff facilities, I don't think that's realistic. A zoo is a very different place, and I don't think it should be a negative influence. So that's why I've got a little sightline here into the staff area. And there's still a barrier here, so you won't get guests wandering through, but they can take a little look if they want to and see what's happening back there. Now, around the back wall here, they're not really seeing anything that would affect them. Then just up this way, you get to the barrier. Now, I've made this out of the new Australian fencing, and if I'm honest, I'm still not sure about the rusty fence. I mean, I feel like this could end up with a lawsuit on your hands if a guest gets a nasty infection from leaning on the gate and cutting themselves. But these fences do fit in with the overall colour scheme, so I've left them in for now. So through the staff gate here, I've custom made a vet clinic and a quarantine centre. Now, the wood building blocks in the game are all a little too clean for what I was going for here, so I've built this up from individual wood planks instead. Now, the clinics here are meant to be sheds, and what I'm going for sustainability wise is that these sheds may have already been here in place before the zoo was built. So the zoo's decided, instead of knocking them down and building something new, they've decided to reuse them. Even though they're a little dishevelled, they still work fine for what the zoo decided to put in them rather than replace. Now, the window here is exposed to direct sunlight, so I've added this corrugated shade here, and that will permanently shade the window from the sunlight. What else have we got on here? So around the back, I've also added an air conditioning unit for this piece because obviously it clearly is going to need one since it's just a tin shack with wood. I was really trying to go for a dishevelled look and sort of what you might find out in the outback if, people are using scrap pieces of metal and scrap reclaimed pieces of wood to build a shack. Now, the quarantine centre, what I've got here is fairly basic too. And again, it's custom made from wooden planks and the corrugated roofing. I've added windows here to let in some light, but also another air conditioning unit because realistically this is the sort of building that's going to be getting rather hot in the day and it's going to need one. Around the back and the side of the building here, I've added a number of pens for the animals, so it's just to make this look a little bit more believable as a quarantine centre. So you'd have some animals inside, but also you'd have animals that would be living outside like they would in a non-quarantine habitat. Now, I've not filled the pens with anything for the habitats just yet. I think I'll wait until the actual habitats are built and then maybe copy across some of the equipment from there and obviously some of the plants and the fauna into this section. So that's where I'm up to so far. I think off camera I will hire some staff and then I'll start getting working on a couple of the animal enclosures. So exciting stuff. These are going to be a little different than how I normally do because I've never been very adventurous with my animal pens. They're always just square boxes or they're very basic. I want to try and do something funky with the landscape and to just do it a little bit different than I normally do. So keep an eye out for that stuff. Anyway, let me know what you think of this build so far in the comments. Suggestions are always welcome. That's it for me today. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye for now.